Robin, we're here in Berlin. Many meetings in Berlin and in Germany take place under the Chatham House rule. Can you, as an authority, explain to us what is the Chatham House rule?
Well, the Chatham House rule is a rule that was first developed at Chatham House in 1927, 7 years after we were founded, with the objective of getting people who are knowledgeable about international affairs, including those inside government, to talk freely, frankly, openly about what they think is happening and what they would like to see happen in international affairs. But under the Chatham House rule, those who are in the room, who are part of that conversation, must not reveal the identity or the affiliation of the people who participate, who speak, or who participate in the meetings. So there's a chance for a conversation to take place. The information can be used, it can be even quoted, but you must not say who said it or who they work for. And this allows people to have a much more frank conversation. We actually amended the rule in 2002. Before, you couldn't say where these discussions took place, but now whether the meeting takes place at Chatham House or Mercator or any other place, you're allowed to say this discussion took place here, this is the ideas that were developed, but you still have to protect the identity and affiliation.
Okay, thank you. Now everyone knows in Germany what the Chatham House rule is. Chatham House is a leading think tank. What role plays political communication in your work? And what challenges do you see in terms of political communication, but also for think tank work?
I mean, I think like any policy institute or think tank, we have one key challenge for political communication, which is to get our ideas out and to get our ideas into the hands and the minds of the policy communities that we're trying to reach. Our objective, like other institutions, is to bring about change, positive change in international affairs in our case, and there are people who help make that happen. So we need to communicate our ideas succinctly, professionally, consistently to those communities. We also secondly, need to try and get ownership. If you simply tell people what you want them to believe or know or follow, there's a resistance. So for us, political communication is about embedding the ideas in the minds of policymakers, about them taking on the ownership. And I think Chatham House rule meetings where people can talk frankly, including the people you're trying to communicate to, lets them take ownership of those ideas privately and quietly. So when you then publish them, people already know them. They've already got into the system. My one worry is that these days, policymakers just don't have time. They don't have time to participate. They are caught in the 24-hour news cycle. There's increasing interest in the general public in tweeting about the latest crisis without always thinking about what's driving it or what the right answer might be to overcome it. That's the challenge we face, is giving policymakers the space and time to think longer term.
Thank you. We're here in Germany. What would you advise a foundation like Mercator or German foundations working with think tanks and using political communication?
Well, I mean, most foundations, to my experience, and I think Mercator would fit this as well, have been founded with certain objectives in mind, with certain ideas that they would like to advocate or that they would like to promote. An institute like Chatham House is a little less founded for that kind of specific purpose. It tends to take an evidence-based approach to whatever the problem is, try to provide the information and offer out some options, but without necessarily having an agenda as to how that change should be undertaken to start with. So the place where I think the most productive work can take place between institutes like Chatham House and foundations like Mercator is where there is a confluence, a coming together of a problem that we see as being important and an outcome that maybe a foundation like Mercator is trying to promote. So we might both have different reasons to go into a project together. We may want to take different aspects of the conclusions to different audiences afterwards. but we can find an overlap place, whether it's in climate security, whether it's in the rise of extremist parties, whether it's in the Middle East or rise of China. We may come at these with different long-term objectives, but same worries and interests in the near-term problem.
Thank you.
Pleasure.